It is time. Welcome to an all new episode of the Crowning Achievement, the show where we explore the ins and outs of some of your favorite esports personalities and content creators. My name is Fireblaster, and again, I'll be your host through this journey that we're going to be going through. Let's go ahead and see if our guest is ready. We're going to go ahead and give them a call and see if they're ready. Give me a couple seconds, and we'll get them on.
We'll each need to take down about 10.
Stow your feet.
Hello?
It's now or never.
Yo, was good.
Win this.
Alright guys, so this is our guest for the day. Today's guest is one of the titans among TOs currently, and one of the bright spots among some of the dark times that we had during the pandemic, pushing online and stuff like that on to help with a certain thing. Please help us in welcoming our guest today, Cagt.
What's good, guys? How y'all doing?
It's good to have you finally being able to, get this going. We had some difficulties that happened to come up through this, so we're glad to have you on the show. So basically what this is going to be, if some of our new people, basically what this is going to be is we're going to be exploring Cact's origins as a, what he's done throughout the years and everything. So that's what this is going to be about. So let's go ahead and get started from the beginning. Let's start out, what region are you from? Where did it all start from? Like, your region, stuff like that.
So originally, obviously, I'm born and raised in France, in Paris specifically. But I originally started my Smash career in Boston, actually, in New England. So I've lived in New England, from when I was 9 years old until I was around, I think until Ultimate came out, which I believe I was like 21, 22 at the time, more or less, and that's where it all started, man. I mean, I started in New England. I was just a player like everyone else. I was just attending my weeklies, supporting the region, traveling to majors when I could. Obviously, I mean, I still helped out locally. I would, run a couple brackets here and there. But it was nothing major, right? It was just purely at a volunteer level, and TOing was not, this career that it is now for me. So.
Okay, that's cool. That's
But-
cool. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, you're good. And when Ultimate came out, I ended up moving to Florida, and that's when I ended up taking my TO career to the next level, and the rest is history.
Yeah, and you've definitely, like I said, been like on this titanic tear of being a TO, so that's awesome. How long would you say you've been going to events? Like, did it start? Where did it start for you?
So I joined the community in fall 2015. So it's been, I think, 6.5 years now since I've been in the community. And I want to say that I've been TOing seriously for about half of that. So about 3 years. And it's been great, man. I mean, like, I think my very first event was there was this new weekly in Boston that came up. I had just graduated from high school, and I've been really getting into the competitive side of the community, because I've followed the community before that. I was just like a Redditor. I would just follow like random threads on Reddit. I would watch VODs. I would watch streams. But because I was in high school, I didn't really have a chance to get out. I didn't really get a chance to attend these events. And all I could do was just watch from afar. And so when I graduated high school, a new weekly popped up, and I found out about it, and I was able to kind of go out on my own and explore, and that's how I started attending events.
That's cool. I like to see everybody's origins. Everybody starts in different times. In this community, we've got 64 vets, we've got Brawl vets, we've got Smash 4 vets, and obviously we've got the newbies who just started in Ultimate.
Yep.
So it's nice to see where like everybody started, getting a nice foundation. What inspired you to start in esports? Was there anything in particular that like sprung your interest, or anything of the sort?
I mean, I've always been interested. Like, I mean, gaming's always been a part of my life, right? I've always played video games. I've always, with my brother, with my friends, and I don't know if there's really been I mean, I know my brother actually used to be in esports. Well, I say in esports. He used to compete himself as well when he was younger. He played in Pokemon tournament, like Pokemon Red tournaments actually. He used to be really into Age of Empires 2. Obviously, when he was, in college, high school, this was in like the early 90s and such, there was no esports was way less developed than it is now. So, he didn't go to the same level as I did, but I think there's a lot of inspiration from that where like both him and I were very competitive people, and I wanted to kind of follow in his footsteps and see where I could go in my competitive career, I guess. And so I think that's where the inspiration came from. Is just my brother.
That's awesome. I share the same vein as you. Is so like me and my brothers were always competitive playing video games throughout my lifetime, and then my brother started going to esports tournaments. So like that's where my start came from too. So it's nice to have a connection like that that I wasn't completely aware of. So that's cool. What would you say you're known for up to this point in your career? Like, what would you say, like, is it like TOing, any particular thing as a player? What would you say it would be?
Um, I mean, I think people have come to know me for a lot of different things because I've got my hand in a lot of different aspects of the community. I think the folks that have known me since Smash 4 know me more for the player side of me. When I was at my peak in Smash 4, some of my most notable wins were over Komari Kiri, Mars, Kool-Aid, Moxie. Like I've had some pretty notable names as a competitor. But I think nowadays, if you ask most people, I'm probably most well known for my tournament organizing skills and just my general involvement with the community, with the calendar and everything else I've done. And I mean, it's cool, I'm not particularly looking to be like known for like one specific thing. It's just I'm just happy that people are supporting me and that people are, keeping up with what I do. It means a lot to me.
Right, you're what I would call the modern day Renaissance man. Obviously starting out as a player, but then having that niche and then being a TO and tournament organizer and stuff like that. So that's you know a great thing to have many opportunities under your belt. So that's cool. What are some of your so let's dive into some of the TL aspects of things. What are some of the minor details of TOing that a lot of people might not see from the outside that you have to deal with on a regular basis?
So, obviously when people think of TOing, most people tend to gravitate to the bracket aspect of it, right? They'll think like, oh, you just have to set up pools and volunteers and whatnot, and like obviously that's a very important part of it. But I think the most important part of TOing is the community management aspect, because when you're a TO, right, you're not just running an event and you're not just like running a bracket. You're also the first point of contact if anything goes wrong for that event. You're the representative of that event, and you're also, in a way, acting as a representative of a figurehead of the people you're hosting the event for. You have to deal with a lot of different kinds of people of different ages, different backgrounds. People have different roles, different levels of involvement in the community, and there's a certain level of responsibility that you have to uphold even outside of an event, right? Like a TO job isn't limited to just the event itself. I think it's a 24/7 job, 365 days a year. Like you no matter what, like once you get yourself involved enough as a TO, you're always going to be seen and talked to as a TO. And sure, there's people that like balance out both the player and TOing aspect. But for the most part, if you're active enough as a TO, people will always see you as a TO, and that's something you have to keep in mind when you're just interacting, when you're just living in this community, really.
Right. Another figurehead in the TOing business, really, up to this point, is Panda Josh. He's definitely
Yep.
one of those people that I met him when he was a TO, so it's one of those things I don't see him as a player. I obviously he plays Bayonetta and he's proficient with Bayonetta, but he's a TO in my eyes. So I definitely see where you're coming from.
Yep. Yep.
So let's go ahead and we're gonna give you like like the dream scenario. You get the chance to put it together your own team for an event. Everything
Right.
is up to you. You get to name everything. What would your event be? Who are some of the people you'd be bringing with you, and why?
Well, that dream scenario has pretty much is happening right now. With my major, hosting a major called Rise and Grind in August 19th to 21 in Texas, and I mean, there's so many people I want to bring on, man. There's so many different talented CEOs and commentators and artists and media and whatnot that I want to have as part of the event. It's hard to really, pick and choose. I think I think it's just about figuring out who would be able to represent my event in the best way, and be able to see, who's really put in the work over the last few months, over the last few years, and who I think should be put on this grand stage to be able to perform their services at this like major level. It's really hard to pinpoint, but there's so many people.
Right, yeah, I feel you. It's just one of those things like, it's a typical question I like to ask in these interviews because, some people don't get that opportunity, which you've worked very hard for, to get to where you're at. So it's one of those things. And typically, so you've ran quite a few events up to this point. In a typical tournament scenario, about how many people are involved in something like this?
So if let's take like your average major, right? Like your pounds and your genesises and whatnot. I would say on the commentator side, I think Ultimate usually has in the range of anywhere between I think 10 to 20 commentators, depending on how many entrants, depending on the scale, and depending on every TO has their own philosophy in terms of how many commentators they want to work with. But usually 10 to 20 is like the average range, right? And then for staffing, when it comes to like, pool captains, when it comes to check-in, when it comes to that sort of thing, I would say I think about maybe like 30 to 50 staff members. This can be regular volunteers, senior volunteers, check-in staff, maybe like backups, floaters, stream runners, I think that's a good number to have, 30 to 50, because then you have enough to cover all the pools, you have enough to cover like all the aspects, you have backups and such. Yeah, so like if you look at the and that's not even counting the people on like the back end, right? The people like there's usually people in charge of marketing, there's people in charge of like the finances of the event, there's graphic designers, so you can like a team for a major can be anywhere between 50 to 100 people, really, depending on how in depth you want to go, depending on how many moving pieces are there, and how big your event is, really. So it really varies a lot.
Yeah, it's just one of those typical questions, I quite often want to ask, depending on, the scale of things is really what you're looking at. So with the positives and everything we've asked up to this point, obviously, there's always negatives with everything that goes along with these. In your opinion, what would you like to change about the community, and how things are currently or have happened in the past? What would you like to see implemented to possibly make the community better in your eyes?
I mean, I think one aspect that the community needs to work on, I think it's the way it handles Twitter and the way it handles drama, for lack of better terms. I mean, obviously there's some very serious cases that come up in the community that we have to handle, but I think the community has a tendency to jump to escalate everything on a public level, and I think a lot of people tend to either over exaggerate, over involve, or just really escalate certain things to a level that they don't need to. And when not everything needs to be like national news, not everything needs to be handled by the entire global community, and I think that's something that people need to realize and work on. And I think in general, a lot of people tend to jump to negativity, and tend to assume the worst out of events or out of people. And I think we should try to look at the positives more, and I think we should try to be a little bit more critical, or like analytical rather, of like certain scenarios. Like not saying like, oh, think for yourself or whatever, right? But like things aren't always what they seem at the surface, and there's a lot more going on than meets the eye. So I think people just need to be more aware of that in general.
Like more of a delicate touch instead of jumping straight to like, oh, this person did this, A, so they need to get this problem and taken care of with this, B. Like, it's not always great like that. So
Exactly. Yeah.
all right. Let's go ahead and go back to more of a positive side. I like to do like the sandwich. You got the positives and you got the negative, and then you gotta have, obviously you gotta have something positive. So this show is named the Crowning Achievement. A lot of people know that at this point. It's one of those things I'm trying to grow. This is kind of like the funnest question of the video as well. Is what would you say is your crowning achievement? What would you say is yours, and it brings up like it's like the mantelpiece of your career up to this point? Like it could be an event, it could be something you did in a community, something along those lines that you feel like you could put your crown on, like K. Rool does. Puts his crown on his head. What would you say your crowning achievement would be?
It's hard. I don't really know yet, actually. If I, as a player, beating Komurikiri and getting top would definitely be like my crowning jewel. I think that, and getting top 64 at Genesis 6, I think it was 5 or 6. Well, I think the last Smash 4 Genesis, I got top 64 as Little Mac, which was really big deal to me. But as a TO, damn, I don't know really. I think, I guess I could say, like, my major hasn't happened yet, right? But I think being able to put on my own major, I think, was like my final goal. It was like my last like goal that I was trying to achieve, really the last goal post I was trying to hit. But before that, I would say I think running Ultimate Summit 4 was a very big deal to me. Because even though it's not like it's not like an open-ended major, right? It's just like it's an invitational, quote unquote. Obviously, there's a lot more to it, but it's always seemed like this kind of event that seemed very out of reach, because it's a very different experience, and it's obviously has a different level of prestige than your average event. And I think being chosen to be the head, like, TO/coordinator for that event was a really big deal to me. And it really showed off for me that, like, wow, like I've really made it this far, and I was able to have this opportunity to run such an event. And it really, like, it meant a lot to me. Like, obviously, running any major means a lot to me, but I think Summit 4 especially was like a very big deal.
Yeah, I would say Summit, if it was my choice or anything, in my opinion, I definitely think Summit was like, the creme la de creme, because obviously they're not, Beyond the Smash is not just going to put anybody in that position. So,
For sure.
I think that's definitely a great thing for you, and I'm proud of, that was actually one of my proud moments when you posted that, was like, I've known Cagt for a little bit of time now, we went back to Smash 4 days, so it's one of those things, like, seeing you get to this point it's just, like, warms my heart. I haven't gotten to that point yet, which I'm striving to get to that point eventually. But, it's cool when you see friends and family and stuff like that get to that point. So, definitely one of those things.
I really appreciate it, man. It's even like to this day, like, even, it's been like about a month now since Ultimate Summit 4, and I still think about that, and I saw people bring up, like, man, how'd you end up running like Ultimate Summit? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. Like, I just keep working hard, and, like, try to build connections, and eventually, something major sticks. And these are the kinds of opportunities that I work for, man. This is like the stuff that I, like, aspire to do. So I'm very lucky to be able to do that.
Right. That's cool. Do you have any advice for players, fans, casters, competitors who are going to watch this either in the next coming days or in the next coming years. Any advice for any of those upcomers that are trying to get to that level? Hey, I want to be that TO that gets to do something. I want to be that commentator that does Genesis say. You have any advice for those people?
I would say it takes a very long time. And it's like patience is the name of the game. Like you have to be patient with people, and you have to know like even if you get again even if you're told no, we can't hire you, we're not gonna pick you. That doesn't mean it's like final. Like just because they won't hire you for this, for example, just because they won't hire you for this specific major doesn't mean they won't hire you the next time that major happens. There's always a possibility. There's always a chance for you to be like considered, right? Like there's been, I mean, a lot of the majors that I, worked in that, like there are events and majors that I have worked at in the past. They've told me like, oh, we don't have the space to hire you, we don't have the budget, or like, we already have a team or whatever. Like that happens, right? Like, and even for commentators, right? I know like obviously there's a lot of commentators in the game, and spots are very limited. And I know it can be discouraging at times when a commentator is told like, oh, I'm sorry, we're not picking you for an event. But that doesn't mean, that you'll never, like, if you're told, no, you can't commentate Pound, that doesn't mean you'll never be able to commentate Pound. It's just you won't be able to commentate that Pound specifically. So I would say just, like, don't give up. Just keep working hard. And I think for TO specifically, I would say my big piece of advice is you have to put yourself out there, and you have to kind of force yourself onto a scene, right? And I don't mean that in a sense of like you have to push everyone else out and then put yourself on a pedestal, but like there's so many different TOs in a scene that are trying to grow. There's so many different events that it's really hard to like stand out, right? It's really hard to like leave a mark. And I think people like you really have to like make yourself like unique. You have to find something that makes you unique, something that makes it worth going to your events over others, and then really push that above all else. And you have to be able to distinguish yourself from the competition. Like obviously we're all friends, like we all get along and shit, but like it's what's it? It's competition at the end of the day, right? It's business, and so you have to figure out what makes your business better than others.
Right. Yeah. It's one of those things you kind of have to pitch your pitch and hope that it gets hit over the fence. And if it doesn't, you kind of just got to keep striving for those kind of things. So, don't ever get discouraged. What we're going to go ahead and do is I have two more questions on the docket from me. But we're going to go ahead and we're doing watching the just spectate. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to open it up to the audience. If anybody in the audience has any questions, we can ask those at this point. It gives you an opportunity to ask Cagt anything you feel like you want to know as a TO, as a player. He's kind of open to these kind of things, so he wouldn't be on the show if he wasn't going to be willing to be asked questions. So we'll go ahead and ask that further.
I'm open to any questions, man. I'm an open book. If there's something people want to know about, I'm here to answer that.
Yeah, we'll leave it open for a little bit, and then if we don't get anything, then I'll ask my last few questions, and then we'll go ahead and put a wrap on this present.
For sure. What about I'm gonna ask about you, man. Do you have any is there anything like major coming up your way? Any major projects, events, or anything?
So this, for me, personally, this has been kind of like the project in the works. Crowning Achievement is, one of those things that I've wanted to do for a very long time. So, that's kind of for me. And then, I possibly have a couple events that have been iffy, but, don't know at this point. They're all up in the air, so we'll find out. I do have a question from one of the viewers, and this is from one of the Kansas fans, Justice. He wants to know, how are you so hot?
Justice, bro, you're way harder than I am. I wish I was as good looking as you, bro. Come on, man. Yeah, I'm nothing. I'm only a pawn next to you, King. I'm just saying, bro.
But yeah, let's see. We're gonna wait till this match is probably over. But yeah, actually, so there is one event that might be coming up, and it's actually next month. You guys will be able to
Mhm.
see me at, and it's actually an event that he's running. He actually invited me to this event before he ever announced it. Was Heartbeat,
Mhm.
because you
Yep,
said
that's
this is
correct.
something that I've been wanting to do for a very long time. But every time I go to get the chance to go to Heartbeat,
Mhm.
my brother got married at the second one.
Mhm.
Finances was the thing in the first one. Third one was
Yep. Yep.
timing. So this one definitely gonna happen for me. So you guys
That's
will be
awesome. Yeah,
notified.
I can't wait to have you at Heartbeat, man. And obviously, you're absolutely guaranteed to be on the mic. I'd really love to have you on. It's gonna be dope. Like, I think I need to check what Texas commentators I have coming for the event.
Hmm.
But like, I mean, I know like, but we've always got a bunch of like really great people involved. I mean, I can't wait, dude. It's gonna be dope.
Oh yeah, I can't wait either. It's one of those things like I love traveling out of state, and it's one of those things like I'm one of those people that doesn't get satisfied with being an in-state commentator. Yeah, I was happy being, the notable Kansas commentator for a while, but like you can't be satisfied with where you're at. You gotta like
Mhm.
get that drive to travel, and like if you do, then you might eventually get somewhere. So
For sure.
yeah, with no more questions coming through from the audience, we're gonna go ahead and the last few questions. Uh, do you have any shout outs or anything you would like to promote at this point? Obviously, you have Rise and Grind in August is something that we're going to be
Mhm.
looking forward to. But any other things that you want to shout out or promote at this point?
I mean, honestly, I want to say like, for any like growing TOs, I've written a couple guides and blogs, about like TOing and how to grow as a TO. And everything's on my website, cagt.gg. I have a lot of great pieces on there. And really, I mean, shout out to the community, man. Shout outs to everyone that's supported me up to this point. Shout outs to everyone who's still like following what I do and, actively going to my events. It really means a lot. But yeah, I mean, I've got my website, cagt.gg, and then Rise and Grind. Really, that's the biggest thing. It's just come to Rise and Grind, man. Like we're doing a lot of work to really make it a really unique major, and we're really trying to innovate on a lot of aspects of the community, on a lot of aspects that people might not, think about or might not be able to really improve on. And so I hope people notice the hard work that we're putting on for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Where can they find you at? Like socials, anything? Do you stream? Where can they find you if they want to find more about the Cagt or the major?
Um, Twitter is really the place to go, man. At Cagt3000 on Twitter, it's where I put out all my regular updates. Is where I announce all my upcoming events or any major projects that I'm working on. That's the place to go.
Awesome, awesome. Uh, we're gonna go ahead and call that a wrap then. Thank you so much, Cact. It's been a great pleasure. It's something that I've wanted you on the show for a while. I was
Mhm.
trying to. You were one of the people that I was looking for to try to get as the headliner, like the premiere episode. But
Mhm.
things fell through. But this has actually been just the perfect timing, for you
Mhm.
because it just seemed like it fit a lot better than what we were originally planning. So we are
Mhm.
glad to have you. I hope you the best in the rest of your TOing up to this point, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you again for having me on. It's been a great pleasure. I wish you the best with your show, and if there's anything I can help you, absolutely down to help. And really, anyone watching, if there's anyone that wants any help, advice, or anything, I'm always around, man. My DMs are open 24/7.
That's awesome. We appreciate that. Thank you so much.
No problem, man. Take care.
Thanks. All right, guys, that wraps up another episode of the Crowning Achievement. Uh, Great episode. Cat is just a great guy, one of those people that, will go to the ends of the earth to help people. So that's always nice to see you get, some spotlight on these kind of things. So my name's Fire Blaster again. Thank you for coming to the fourth episode of the Crowning Achievement. This week we have two more on the docket for the rest of the week. We've got 2 K rules. One notable as the best K rule in North America, which is Kirby Kid. That's going to be Friday. And then on Saturday, we're going to have when he was playing, arguably the best Canadian K Rule, and one of the best in the world considered, is Knuckles Up. So those are the 2 episodes we got to look forward to the rest of the week. You can find me on Twitter at FireBlaster65. Obviously, you guys are here at Twitch, so if you can give me a follow, it'd be greatly appreciated if you haven't. And on YouTube, you'll be able to find the episodes that I post. I'm going to post them on Twitter, and until we get 100 subscribers, we won't be able to get a unique URL. So if you can help the man out and find that, be greatly appreciated. But until then, thank you guys so much for coming to the crowning achievement. My name's Fire Blaster again. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week.